Everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today, of course, I am talking about PlayStation killing off physical games starting in 2028. Sadly, I believe this is the first time I've ever worn this hat on the channel, so I was like, well, that's unfortunate, but I spent the money on this, so I'm definitely gonna wear it. And of course, got my Happy Memories hat. I have my actual memory card here. Of course, PlayStation 1, Resident Evil, favorite franchise, and started physically back on the PlayStation 1. But of course, there's been a lot of conversation. There's going to be a lot of conversation. Like, it'll probably die down, and then a little bit. First off, I want to say it's not changing. Like, Sony is not going to be like, oh man, the people on Twitter. I say this, like, I've said this for probably the last week and a half, for like every single video I've done where it's like, this is horrible news. This horrible thing happened. The Steam stuff, the Xbox stuff, the GTA stuff, every single thing, I say the same thing. We're on the internet. It does not matter. We're like 5% of the actual people that are going to complain or even talk about this. Like, granted, the no physical disc has reached the point of like CNN. Like, that's a huge difference, especially because it's Sony in particular. So it's like, like a lot of, we've already kind of lost things on the movie front, like, the whole stuff with Best Buy where it's like they don't do that anymore. And so if Sony's doing that for the PlayStation, does that mean Sony's going to start doing that for movies? And then there's like no physical media from Sony at all. Like, they are Blu-ray. That's a huge, like, that's an issue. So, like, we'll have to see about that going forward. But as of now, games in particular. And of course, the conversation has been a lot of people going like, well, I haven't bought physical in this long, so what does it matter? It's, 80% has been digital versus like 20% physical and stuff like that. So, there's a lot of conversations. And I think a lot of people ignore the fact that there is an issue when it comes to game preservation as a whole. I don't think that's something that most people think of. If we're being totally honest, like, even like, I'm glad this conversation brought it up a lot, which once again brings it up a lot on the internet, which, it is what it is. It brings it up on the internet for people to argue, which typically doesn't really, change anyone's minds. But it's been an issue for quite a while, as far as like physical media versus digital media and the convenience of things. Something I noticed, and this happened with like the GTA thing, where I was like, I'm not even concerned about the $100 price point. My concern was like, hey, no physical media, $80 games. And then we go into all things PlayStation, no physical media. Most likely, at some point, they're going to try to do the $80 games, because I doubt they're going to do what Nintendo does, which even Nintendo is kind of tricky because they do variable pricing on different games in general. So it's like, well, was it really going to be a $50 game, or was it always a $60 game, or was it a $70 game and you make it seem like it's cheaper because you bought it digital? We'll have to see if PlayStation even does that, where it's like, hey, now that we're doing all digital, we won't make any game $80. But we can't say that because GTA is already $80. So it's going to be based on the companies. And once again, we'll just see how that pans out. But naturally, we'll start from the beginning. PlayStation has said, starting in 2028, January of 2028, no more physical media, no more physical games. It is all digital, and that's about it. As close as you'll get to physical, it's probably going to be, like the little cards that we get, how we have PlayStation Plus subscription cards and stuff like that now. That's as close as you'll get. It'll be just a bunch of little cardboard, little tallies in the gaming section. Who knows what gaming sections are going to look like when there's no physical games in 2 years. They're already kind of tiny as is. Like, I walk around like the gaming section at Walmart and it's like, all right, it feels like it's smaller and smaller like every year anyway. And now it's like, all right, well, the little tech area is like, well, here's a buttload of vinyl. And fortunately, they still do like a lot of physical movies and TV shows. But I feel like the gaming section has felt way smaller than it used to, where it'd be like, a full case, like an entire wall would be like the full case, like every console, like here's, PS4, here's, I almost said Wii. I don't know why I said PS4 and then Wii, but here's all the different, consoles and stuff, and they're all just lined up together. And it's like, here's like the newer games, here's the sale. Like, it's just one full wall of games. And now it feels like, all right, well, you got like a little spot here. Here's like the little stuff for like Nintendo, where they're like a lot of their stuff feels like it's already on cardboard. And then here's like, I feel like half of it's controllers at this point, which is also crazy. But I feel like there's so much stuff in the gaming section where it's like, I feel like half of this is really just like headsets and controllers now compared to the games anyway. And that's just how it looks. So it'll be even crazier, when we get to 2028. But when it comes to physical games, they're good. They're great even. There's, of course, been the conversation over the years where it's like, hey, you don't really have anything anyway when you buy a disc. Like, you have to download day one patches and stuff like that. There's a website, I believe it's called Does It Play? Highly recommend you guys check that out, because that will let you know, like, hey, this game, if you buy it, you can play like this much of the game, like it runs straight off the disc. That's still a thing. I think that's been, heck, even I had that misconception for a long time until I actually found out that was a website. And it's like, a lot of games are still actually like straight on the disc. Like, yes, you'll have a day one patch, but you can still play that game. You still have that game physically. You could just pick it up and play it and do whatever. It's like, yeah, it might be messed up. If it's, if it's like Cyberpunk, then you're F. But that is a very rare occasion that a game is literally so bad that it actually cannot run. That's super rare. So that doesn't happen very often anyway. But yes, if a game is already coming out horrible, then sure, like it's up in the air. But for most games, that's not really the case. Yeah, there'll be like a day one patch or like some weird thing that ends up happening. Usually there aren't game breaking bugs. It's just day one patches where it's like, okay, we've had the reviewers and stuff figure something else out. It's kind of a part of, quality assurance when it comes to games. Like it's running in corners and all that weird stuff. Like they're just things that aren't found until there's a million people playing. That's kind of just natural. Granted, we didn't have that back in the day, but of course, there are also glitches in old games that, you can exploit. Shout out to the Ditman glitch on Resident Evil 4. But there's a lot there when it comes to physical versus digital. Obviously the conversation about sales, and that's why they've kind of gone towards, this move in the market. They're not going to reverse it. I will say that right now. There's no way that that's happening. They're good. They said their thing. They announced it. I guess they just threw there like, GTA already did it. Might as well let them know it's the whole gambit. So that's where we are right now. And it's just, the countdown is officially on. So I think it sucks. I'm one of those people. I bought digital, I bought physical. I'm not going to pretend that I'm like one of those people like, man, it's going away. And I've never bought digital. I have Resident Evil. I got a bunch of Resident Evil games. Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 9, both digital. I would have had 9 physical, but that's because Capcom decided to sell like 1,500 versions of that deluxe edition. And I was like, well, that blows. And I was like, if I can't do it and get like all the stuff that I actually want, I'll just get the digital deluxe edition. And I've mentioned that before. That's something else that's kind of been one of those little tricks that they've done, because this is nothing new. We've talked about this like with the GTA thing. It was like, hey, data being on the disc, this is something that people got mad about because it was GTA. But I'm like, we've been doing that for a long, like, where have you guys been? Like, it's only popular when it's like the biggest news ever. And that's when I see the conversations and I'm like, you guys haven't been paying attention. Like, this has been happening forever. Digital deluxe editions where it's like, hey, you can either buy it physical, or if you want the extra content, you can only buy it digital. Like Insomniac is cool with that. Like you can get Wolverine now and you can get the base version, physical disc and everything. And then you can just get the $10 upgrade. They're like the only company that actually does that. Everyone else is like, well, if you want like the digital deluxe stuff, you just have to buy the whole thing digital. You can't buy physical and then get the $10 thing. It's super weird, but a lot of other companies don't end up doing that, at least, for the games that I play. So I've been doing digital because of that, because I'm like, well, I actually want this extra content. And then that's another conversation about, content already that should already be in the game and all that extra stuff, and be like, oh, it's $80. How about that? Like, full game is $80. But it's a different conversation when it comes to no physical in any way, shape, or form. And I think for me, not only is it the preservation of like the art form, it's also the monopoly of Sony, specifically, obviously, the monopoly of having like the PlayStation Store. Of course, they're going to have like the little physical things, like just how you buy like PS Plus at the store and everything. They're still going to have that in retailers. And I assume that that's going to be their way of being like, well, it's not a monopoly. You can still go to Walmart and just pick up the card. I'm sure that it'll be the same thing if it's a physical copy versus the little cardboard. They'll still do rollback prices or whatever sales happen. It will still be like, hey, it's less convenient because you still have to go to the store to get it. You don't get to, pick up like a case or anything. You're just picking up a little piece of cardboard. But they can still set their prices in store, I would imagine. So I assume that that's how that's going to play out. It'll still be the same as physical, where you can still go to a store and that's where the sales will be. It'll just be like, well, it sucks because you're really only going just because it's cheaper. It's not because you're getting something extra out of it. You're not getting a case. I was going to say you're not getting a booklet, but like these days are long gone anyway. But it just really sucks as like a preservation of the art form that has already lost a ton of stuff. Like, of course, the conversation now, they've announcing this after getting rid of all those movies. They're getting rid of like the PS3 store very soon. And there's stuff on there where it's like, well, those games, once again, game preservation, it does make sense because there are games that are fully digital that are just gone. If you don't have it, like my PS3 broke. Everything that I downloaded is gone. Like, I think I had that one game. I think it was like Dead Nation. It was like a twin stick shooter zombie game. I love that game, but I'm like, that's gone. It might be on PS4. I can check that out. But also that's a weird thing where it's like, it's not guaranteed to be the same version. That's something I've always hated. I bought Code Veronica. I bought the HD version on PS3. I cannot play that. It's gone because the version that's on PS4 is the original version of Code Veronica. So I'd have to actually buy it again because it doesn't count as the HD version that I bought on my PS3. That's gone. Like if I bought that physical, that would, be a different thing. If they didn't even sell it physical, but perfect example. It was a digital only thing. it does not update or transfer to anything else because I don't know why, but they constantly like change the PlayStation Store anyway, like between generations. I always hated that, where I was like, I don't understand why it's not the same thing and it just carries over, but that's just how it is. Resident Evil is actually a really great example. My PS3 once again died. Back on the PS3, I bought Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 along with Code Veronica when those were out, and it was like, I would love to replay like the old Resident Evil games. I still had, my disc for 1, and my disc for 2 doesn't really work too well. So I was like, all right, I'll rebuy 2 and 3. Had those, had fun with them. Bought Code Veronica, had fun with that, and then it was like, oh, well, I can't play those now. Recently, like I guess it was last year. Like I guess it was about this time last year or so was when the Resident Evil games came back out, and it was like, hey, free update. We brought them back to the PlayStation Store. If you bought them on PS1, now you can re-download them. That was great news because for a long time, I was like, dang, we've been wanting a physical copy, just from Capcom as fans. It was like, hey, please let us buy the original games because you just could not get them unless you, went online, and you just couldn't get them. And then it was like, hey, we're finally doing it. They were on GOG for a hot minute, and they're still on there. I would recommend getting them there personally. But they brought them to GOG. Then they were like, hey, we're bringing them to PlayStation. And if you bought them on PS3, now you can actually play them again. And that was fantastic news. I wish that happened for Code Veronica, but it was the HD version and not the original version. So, I'm SOL on that one. But that is a good example. Like, people have those small examples where it's like there are certain elements of being like, hey, preservation is serious. It might seem minute, and I feel like it's minute to people that just don't care. Like, that's my personal opinion. You can please let me know if you're in that camp. But I'm like, there are a lot of people, and it's Twitter. So once again, is what, like 2% of the actual gaming community, maybe 5%. It's just people talking like, this is what I've done, this is what I've done, this is what I do. Like, what difference does it make? And whenever I see that, that's when I'm like, you don't really care about games that much, because the preservation is the most important aspect. When it's all digital, it does become a greater problem because these companies don't care as is. Like, you have to get like a physical version to have something saved. It doesn't matter if it's like, oh, you have to download a day one patch. Who cares? If you can play it day one, which you can for some games, not everything, but if you can, then that makes a huge difference. Like, it makes a world of difference. Like, it makes all the world of difference. And I feel like people aren't really seeing that or really getting it at all, where it's like, this is way beyond just like, well, I buy digital or I buy physical and it's convenient or less convenient. The preservation of games is taking a hit. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, the preservation of games is taking a hit. And unless they change literal laws, like that's where we have to go now. Like, we have to fight, like, stop killing games. Fantastic thing. Look into that if you haven't. But that's a great first step. And all we can do is hope that stuff like that actually pans out, and then it kind of builds up, because we literally need new laws at this point. If they're going full digital, new laws need to be implemented to say, hey, you own this, because that's obviously like the big thing where, as everyone has said, if you're buying digital, it's just a license. They can take it away. It's rare that happens. And I think that's always been like the big argument where people are like, well, I can still play this game from back then that got delisted. And it's like, that's great that we have that, but that is not guaranteed for everything. That's like the whole point of Stop Killing Games. Like, you can't play online, or a game is fully delisted and you can't find it unless you go online or buy an old copy. Stuff like that is like, okay, well, things are very relevant when it comes to physical media versus digital media. Obviously, going back in the day, the days of booklets in color as well. Like, that's crazy. Look at that in color. That's wild. But there are games that get delisted all the time. I have 2 of my favorites right here. Love me some Transformers. I may or may not have these somewhere else, like on the computer I'm recording on, but that is neither here nor there. I just happen to find that, but I did own them, so it's I just transferred it. So that's how I did it. But on PS4, shout out to Gravity Rush. Sorry, Japan Studio. I don't know why Sony did that. They destroyed. They'd be doing stuff sometimes, but this game and the second game are like 2 of my favorite games. Like, genuinely super fun, excessively underrated. When this came out, it was not physical in the US at all. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it wasn't. So I ended up getting it. And it's like it's Chinese plus English version is what it says down at the bottom there. And this is Gravity Rush Remastered. It first came out on the PSP, and then when they brought it to physical, it was only digital in the US. Like I said, I don't know why they did that, because they actually made it physical. It wasn't all digital, but I was like, well, I don't want just a digital version. So I ended up buying this. And also, I think it may have been cheaper or something like that. I don't remember exactly why I did it, but I was like, I kind of just want to have like the actual game. So I have Gravity Rush Remastered, and I was super happy to have it. Fantastic game. Highly recommend it if you can find it. Another game. Man, I can't say I'm like, oh my God, best thing ever. But Avengers. I got this for like $10 from Best Buy. And was like, okay, I got it because it was cheap and I wanted to play the game. They took the servers offline. You can't play online anymore, and you can't even buy the game. Once again, you cannot buy this. You cannot buy this game. Heck, honestly, if I hadn't bought it, I would have it digital because I didn't expect them to do. It was before they made that announcement. I just happened to buy it for like $10. But it was before they made that announcement where it was like, hey, we're getting rid of everything. And then when it was going on sale, it was like $3 by the time they were like literally going to delist the game. But if you don't have that game, you cannot buy that game. If you downloaded it, yes, it can come back and all that good stuff. But if you don't have this game, you cannot play this game. That is how it is. You have to find a physical copy, which of course that is limited, or you can just happen to find someone that has it on their PlayStation and then you have that PlayStation. So there are different elements to this stuff, whereas like games are fully delisted, whether it is, in advance, or games just don't have like a physical version in your region that might be relevant to you. And I think there's a lot of conversation around that where it's like, I don't think people understand, like, you can lose out on stuff. I'm losing out on like the PS3 games that I have, and I would have played them. Like if it wasn't for the fact that my PS3 was destroyed, I would be playing those games. There are other things that are just harder to get. Like, perfect example, the Wii U shop has been closed for years now. I think about that quite often because I regret not getting the Resident Evil games on the Wii U. And I wish I had those. Like I own Dark Side Chronicles, but I don't own Umbrella Chronicles. I don't own Resident Evil 4 on the Wii. I don't want to spend a buttload of money to get those two games. And I wish that I got them all digitally. Like I went on there too, and I messed up. But I don't have those games. And I think about that at random because I'm like, I could play those on the Wii U. If I even wanted to do, content with them, I could do that off my Wii U. I don't have to play it on the Wii. I have a Wii U. It's in 1080p or whatever the graphics would actually be for those Resident Evil games. And I'd have a blast. I'd have Resident Evil 4 on the Wii. I'd have the Dark Side Chronicles games, Umbrella Chronicles. It would just be like, hey, just 3 Resident Evil games. I'd have them right there. But I have to go physical if I want to play those games ever again. And that's fairly expensive. Like it's kind of over the top. So games are delisted, games go up in price. The panic is already setting in guaranteed. So that's of course already happening. Like I'm sure the prices are rising. I want to get like my old PS1 games. I'm sure those will go up just because, stuff that doesn't even make sense, but everything will go up in price. And then when it, let the panic settle down, like everyone's going to be like going crazy right now, but eventually it'll start to like slow down anyway. And I say, just pick the games you want. Don't go crazy with it. Just pick the games that you want physically. And I'll say this, when it comes to the future of where we're headed, my main concern, like I said, this entire thing, preservation. Preservation is important to me and people like me. It is not important to the companies. That's why they don't really do it much. Like there are tons of games that I'm sure are already lost forever that they're just dead and gone. Heck, we've literally been dealing with this since E.T. came out. Like they buried a bunch of games in a landfill because it was like, well, we didn't sell and it was horrible. And they just buried them in a landfill. There's literally like whole documentaries based on that stuff. Games get destroyed and then they're just lost to time. And for me, I'm a giant nerd who likes art. It's my favorite medium. It's my favorite art form is video games. But it's the same with movies where it's like, I would love to have all these movies preserved. If there's something that I like, buying something physical, you can't find it on streaming. You have to have it. If it's just not streaming at all, I literally just looked up the PG-13 version of Deadpool 2 because my daughter was asking about Deadpool, and I was like, probably can't watch like the main versions. But I thought about that and I was like, well, I never got to see that in theaters when it came out anyway. I was like, I'd be curious to see that, and I could show her like a PG-13 version of Deadpool. And it was like, that's just not streaming anywhere. Doesn't really make a lot of sense, but Disney has everything else, but they just didn't put that on there. It's just not there. So you have to go out and you have to buy it. Little stuff like that is where this element comes in. Like people saying that they bought digital or, they haven't bought physical for like 8 years doesn't really mean anything when the entire concept of like media disappearing exists. Like it doesn't matter if you specifically haven't done it. And I understand convenience or whatever it is, it's totally fine. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend like, oh, I've never bought anything digital. Like I have like 5 PS5 games, like physically. And that's really about it. Like I got a couple and then like, that's it. And I think half of them were technically bought for my daughter. So it's like I understand. I'm not going to pretend that I don't buy digital games or it's not more convenient or anything like that. But it's weird to ignore how dangerous it is to have that. And then I haven't even gotten to like the whole monopoly thing when it comes to prices. If Sony's the only store doing it, if we get the opportunity that, the little pieces of cardboard go to the store, we can hope that they'll do sell prices just like they do now for actual physical games. And they should. And I hope they do. But it's not really guaranteed. It's not exactly guaranteed. And then your options are still just PlayStation Store or go to a store. And, like I said, if they do the sales, then everything will kind of be the same, except you just won't have anything to really bring home with you. It'll just be like, it'd basically be like just buying this and that's about it. And not even in color. So that's really about it. But I think it's really dangerous and it's really unfortunate, to say the least. Like, I was genuinely like sad because I was like, man, I don't like, people don't get it, where it's like shrinking the possibility to like hold on to media, where it's just, once it's all just in the air and it's just licenses, there's a lot that can be lost. It's not just, oh, I paid money to have this and then you took it from me. For me, it is literally just, what if it's just lost forever? Like, just losing the art in general is like my main concern. It's not that I personally lost something. It sucks that I don't get to like just bring over the Code Veronica or Dead Nation from PS3 and stuff like that. That sucks. But if it's lost forever, that's way worse to me. Like, I'm just one dude, but if it's lost to the entire planet, that effing sucks. And I feel like nobody that is complaining, where they're like, oh, I haven't bought physical in a long time, every time I read that, I'm like, you don't actually care then. Like, you aren't thinking beyond digital versus physical, because that's all you think. It's just like, oh, it's either in my hand or it's not. They're literally more important things than the physical like holding of a video game. It's the fact that if you can't hold something, it can just not exist anymore. And odds are it won't after a certain point. That's, like I said, the whole stop killing games thing. For being able to play online, having games just being physical in general is like, hey, you have something. And like I said, huge misconception that there's nothing on the disc anyway, just because you have to download a day one patch. Unless it is horrible cyberpunk levels, you can play a game on day one if you have it physical. Like, you are perfectly fine. You can just put it in without any updates. There might be some extra little issues or glitches or whatever, but odds are you can still play a whole game. So that's not an actual concern when it comes to that. Like, you can still like play the game and have the game. And as people have mentioned, even when it comes to Nintendo and stuff like that, with the game key cards, at least you can sell that back. It is like a physical thing to sell back because it downloads the whole game. That, I think, will be the most interesting thing to see as well. When it goes all digital, if you're buying from the store, is it a game key card style where you get a code to download it and then you like have that? Or is it what it typically is, where you download it and then it's done? Like, there is no trade, like a lot of people mentioned. Like, it's probably just going to be you full on, you put it in just like you would do like, the PSN wallet or PS Plus. Like, once you put the code in, it's like, okay, that is yours and that is it. It's not like you put the code in to download it like Nintendo has it. It's just an actual digital code to download the thing and then that's it. So, the resale market, if that's truly how it goes, which it most likely will, because that's more convenient for them. GameStop is done. All the resale stuff is unfortunately done. So it'll be interesting to see, to say the least. Like, it's unfortunate, and I think a lot of people aren't paying attention to the actual important side of what's really going on with a lack of physical media, because they're just, it's the same as anything on the internet. Like, any gaming conversation, most of the people just don't actually care. Like, that, just from my personal opinion, when I read stuff and I look at everything, I'm like, these are people that, like, you might like games, but you don't actually care that much, because you wouldn't be saying it's not that big of a deal if you cared about like the history and preservation of gaming. Like, old stuff being old is stupid. If that's how you think, you're dumb. Like, plain and simple, if it's old, it needs to, like, if it's been created, it needs to be kept. That's how I look at it. So that's my opinion on it. Those are my thoughts on it. Obviously, there's not much I can add or do, or there's nothing to say or do, but just express how I feel. So that's where I'm at right now. I think it blows. And a lot of people will definitely be, going to like pirating and whatnot and all that good stuff. But I don't know. It'll be weird. Like, it'll be interesting to see how hardcore this changes the gaming industry, because it's already, we've been in a slow, steady crash for a super long time, as well as the country as a whole. But that, it is what it is. So we'll see. We got a year and a half, and then we'll see. We'll just see. But it sucks, plain and simple. Like, it sucks. It actually made me sad when I first heard about it, because I was like, dang, it makes a difference. And I think it's something that a lot of people, especially, if internet people are complaining about it and they don't even comprehend it, casual people aren't even going to think about it. And that's why it's never going to change. Like, there's no way it's going to change. The backlash is internet backlash. I say it every time, whether you're supporting or fighting against, you're on the internet. You are an absolute minority when it comes to that conversation, because most gamers are just people out and about. The GTA thing, random people. Like, that's like the biggest thing ever. GTA gets like every person. Not people that care about games, not people that know the history of games. That gets everybody, because it's GTA. It's just a thing. Same with video games as a whole. Most of the people are just playing. That's it. They don't really think about it. They don't really care about it. So many people, it's just another element of digital anyway. Streaming movies, I don't even stream music. Like, I download all my music. So I'm one of those people where I'm like, I keep like files of stuff, like, for everything that I like. if I can, I have the files for it. So that's just how I've always been, even when it comes to digital stuff. You know, that's why a lot of people say like, oh, you're complaining about that, but the PC thing, I've always thought that was stupid, because I'm like, that is vastly different. Like, you aren't going, unless you like know what you're doing, you're not going into the PlayStation and cracking it and like finding a way to like pull files from a console to like emulate stuff and push it somewhere else. Like, people aren't doing that. If you're on PC, it is like extremely different to be like, oh, digital only, like that, worlds apart. But that's where we are. Would love to know your thoughts. Not much else to really say about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.